struggled with for years. And then 1 month of self-talk, gone. And it's, what is it, 8 years later now? Never had a problem since. So this does work, okay? And if it can work for peeing, what else can it work for, right? Everything else, exactly, Pastor Shepard. So, people can be very fatalistic, right? Saying that the results of our life are beyond our control. It's just, things happen, whatever it is, whether it's fate or chance, we're not really in control. But that's not exactly true. To be sure, we can't control every specific result, right? If you're driving on the way to work and all of a sudden there's an accident, there's a huge traffic jam, that's outside your control. You're just stuck in traffic. There's nothing you can do. But what you can do is choose the pattern of behavior that will best help you, that will, in general, create the best results. Right? Your habits, that's what I said earlier. So, for example, you can check the traffic every day before leaving so that you can at least avoid most traffic jams, except for those that are, happen all of a sudden. So what elements control our results? Again, I'm referring to the book here. Dr. Helmstetter says that results are created by our actions. Makes sense? Our actions are ultimately determined by our feelings. Our feelings are created by attitudes. Our attitudes are created by beliefs. And our beliefs are created by programming. That is, the way we think about ourselves based on what other people tell us to believe and what we say to ourselves. What he said there was the brain can't tell the difference between what's true and what's not true, right? If you walk up to a kid and you just tell him a fact, there's no way his brain knows whether it's true or not. What the brain does do is it remembers. And basically, whatever we tell the brain most is what it will believe to be true. And that is what he would call programming. So, the problem for all of us is that we're basically programmed with negativity from the moment we're born. Okay? By the time we leave our parents' house, we've heard the word no tens of thousands of times. We've heard it from our parents, we've heard it from our teachers, we hear it from the world around us. And eventually we take ownership over all of this negativity and we start repeating it to ourselves. And once that happens, there's not a lot of hope, once you start repeating it to yourself, that it's not going to be true the rest of your life, unless you make a change in what you say to yourself. So, I want to tell you a story about an individual that we all know is successful. His name is Steve Jobs. It's going to be a short story, but maybe you don't all know this, but Steve Jobs, when he was born, he was actually put up for adoption by his birth parents. He was adopted. And when he found out about this, he went to his adopted parents, and he was really upset about it. He said, does this mean that my parents didn't want me, that I'm somehow not good enough? And they said, no, you misunderstand completely. We specifically chose you to be our son. That means you're special. Now, there are a lot of factors that contributed to Steve Jobs' success, but he himself said that he took this to heart, and he repeated it to himself growing up and throughout his whole life. He believed that he was special. He believed that he was destined for great things. And it became true. He started one of the most successful software companies in the world. And the people who worked with him said that Steve Jobs actually had something called a reality distortion field. Basically, there would be things that everyone thinks are impossible, and he thought they were possible. And he said it with so much fervor and so much conviction. And he would lie and deceive and do whatever it took to convince his people and convince the world that what he was talking about was true. And then the craziest thing would happen is that it would actually become true. His crazy idea came to fruition, right? Because he believed in it so much. And he would repeat it to himself, and he would repeat it to everyone else over and over and over again. This can happen. This can be a reality. And the people under him would be so inspired, they would work nights, they would work weekends. They would work themselves half to death just to bring this into reality, and it would happen, right? Now you might say, oh, well, Steve Jobs is special, right? His story doesn't apply to me. I'm just me, and he's Steve Jobs. And to that I say, that's BS. Because Steve Jobs wasn't special to begin with. We all think he's special because of what he accomplished, right? That's the thing. It's his actions and the results that came from those actions that made him a great man. And we all think he's special because of that. So it's our actions that we're in control of that create our destiny, that create the results we attain. So if Steve Jobs can do it, what's to say that we can't do it, right? Again, he wasn't just simply great all along. It was his actions that made it that way. So let's get practical about self-talk, all right? This is going to be a very practical sermon. I'm not really talking about metaphysics or theology, I'm just talking about life. But what are the 5 levels of self-talk, as Dr. Helmstetter puts it? What are the different types of self-talk we have? The first level, we should all be familiar with, it's called negative acceptance. Acceptance. And it is characterized by the phrase, I can't. Basically, things like saying, I'm disorganized, I'm lazy, I have an anger problem, I'm not good at remembering people's names, I'm just not a math person. All those types of things. We say that to ourselves, our brain believes it, and then it becomes true. And then if we try to change, for example, let's say we're disorganized, we try to become organized, what happens is our brain basically thinks, why are you trying to get organized? We already know that you're not organized, right? What are you doing? Because that's what the brain believes. The brain is incredibly sophisticated, and the way that it works is that it has to save power wherever it can. So it creates all sorts of shortcuts, right? And so you can see this when somebody tosses you something, your eyes will follow the object, and then all of a sudden your eyes will dart to where the object will be, and your hand will appear there and you'll catch it. The brain uses shortcuts to accomplish amazing feats. The drawback of that is that once the brain has figured something out, it doesn't want to change the way that it works. It says, this is our shortcut, this is how we're doing it, we're not going to work. So all of that background processing that could be working for you, it is not working for you. And that's why it does not work when you just try to say, oh, I'm going to get organized, but you keep telling yourself, I'm disorganized. So that's level 1, I can't, negative acceptance. That's bad, right? We can all agree that's bad. Number 2 is the level of recognition and need to change. This is characterized by I need to, or I should. So, I really need to get organized, or I need to get a hold of my temper, or I need to stop procrastinating so much. Now you would think that this level is better than the first level, but really it's not. Because when you say something like, I need to get organized, what is the unspoken addition to that sentence that goes along with it? I need to get organized, but I'm not organized right now. So you're pushing it off into the future, right? I need to get in control of my anger, but I'm not in control of it right now. It's that but, that unspoken but, that still teaches our brain the exact opposite of what we want to teach it. Level 3 is decision to change. And it's characterized by the phrase, I never, or I no longer. And this is the first good level. Basically, I no longer have an anger problem. I no longer procrastinate. I never procrastinate. Those types of things. Now, this is a very, very important level because it's what you need to start saying to yourself immediately right now. Even if somebody else would call you a fat liar for saying this, like saying, you know what, Dad, I never procrastinate. And you would call me a straight-up liar for saying that. Because I do. But the thing is, if you just say what is true right now, then you will never achieve what could be true tomorrow. And besides, if I make the decision to say, I never procrastinate, and I make that change today, right now, I try to make that difference in my life, then it will be true today. Even if it was a lie yesterday, if I make it true today, then it's true today. Right? And it can be true tomorrow also. Level 4 is the level of the better you. It's characterized by the phrase, I am. Basically, I am in control of my emotions. I am a hard worker. This is really important because it's not good enough just to say, I am not something. What are you going to replace it with? Right? Let's say your apartment is full of old, worn-out furniture, and it's just crappy, it looks terrible, it smells bad. Your friend comes in and says, you know what, I'm going to help you. I'm going to help you take all this crappy furniture, bring it out to the dumpster. So he helps you. He clears out all of this junk from your apartment. And then he's like, all right, see ya. And then he leaves. And then you're like, I feel great. And you go back into your apartment, and you're like, wow, it's so clean. And then you think to yourself, okay, I want to sit down now, but there's no chair. Well, there's a chair over by the dumpster. So you go to the dumpster, you drag the chair back. You're like, okay, yeah, I can sit down now. Then it's like, oh, well, I need to sleep now. So you go and drag back the bed. And slowly but surely, you're just going to drag back every piece of furniture you just got rid of. Why? Because you didn't replace it with anything else, right? You can't just clear out the junk. You have to replace it with good stuff. So that's why you have to say, I no longer have an anger problem, Dad, and I'm in control of my temper when I drive. Okay? If you just keep repeating that to yourself.
He's exaggerating.
Yeah, maybe. All right. No, I am. I like to pick on my dad. But he knows it's out of love. All right. Now, level 5 is the level of universal affirmation, and it's characterized by the phrase, it is. This is where you say general, broad things about the universe or the world around you. Like, the universe is a wonderful place to live in. Through God, anything is possible. And these things can be really amazing, life-affirming phrases. In terms of practicality, though, Dr. Helmstetter says that levels 3 and 4 are more important than level 5 for day-to-day life. Not that level 5 is not important, but that what you should focus on are the specific things about you that you want to change, rather than general affirmations. So, now that you know levels 3 and 4 are good, and levels 1 and 2 are bad, just stop using levels 1 and 2. Just don't do it. Right? Why would you do something that you know is bad for you? Right? Especially when it's not even fun. I can understand doing things that are bad for you as long as they're fun, even if I don't agree with it, right? Eating junk food, for example. Yeah, do you think it's good for you? No, but you do it anyway because it is enjoyable in the moment. And you feel terrible afterwards. Like, oh, why did I do that to myself? But this isn't even fun in the moment, and yet we keep doing it to ourselves. We keep telling ourselves all of this garbage about us, over and over and over again. And sometimes, I know what this is like. Sometimes I'm just sitting at my desk, it's going cycling through my head, all of this garbage, like saying, oh God, why did I agree to do this? I'm not good enough, this, that, and the other. And you just gotta recognize when that is happening and jump in right at that moment and try to take that thought that's occurring in your head right there and then say the exact opposite. Try to counteract it right there. Don't let it spiral out of control. Now, if you don't believe me about the whole 70% statistic and all the negative crap you say about yourself, try an experiment. Take a journal, take a notebook, and then for the next 3 days, write down every single thing that you say about yourself, that you think about yourself, and just write it down. Or specifically, even just write down the negative ones. And at the end of 3 days, if you've actually done it properly, and not just been lazy and ignored it, you'll see it's just full of things about yourself that are just completely counterproductive. So, the point is, don't do that. All right. You have to believe in yourself, okay? I've just given a broad overview. I know it's easy to say, do this thing, and I can't really tell you how to do it, because that's up to you. But what I can say is, if you want to know more, you can read the book, What to Say When You Talk to Yourself. I think it's on Kindle for just like $2. It's definitely worth a read. It's helped me a great deal.
What is it called again?
What to Say When You Talk to Yourself, by Dr. Shad Helmstetter. All right? One of the best books, self-help books I've ever read. So, you have to believe in yourself. You have to think that this is possible. You have to think that it's worth it, right? I know that it can be hard. I know that it can be scary, and it can feel like I'm okay just being what I am, right? I just accept myself for what I am, right? And I don't really see why it's worth it to try so hard. What is so special about me? Why am I worth fighting for? Why is this world worth fighting for? And I know sometimes it can seem like nobody ever changes, ever. Because I know people in my life, God, I wish they would change. And I've talked to them about it so many times. and they're doing really self-destructive things to themselves and the people they love, and they just never, ever change. But the thing is, I can't control those people, right? I can't. The only person I can control is myself. And I make the choice to believe in myself and to believe that it is possible. Even if I've made mistakes, even if the past week, the past year has just been a complete waste of time. It hasn't, I'm just saying, that's hypothetical. I can make the choice today to make a difference in my life. To start saying the things that will help me, right? In the good book, in the Bible, it says, "So shall my word be that goes forth from my mouth. It shall not return to me empty, but it shall accomplish what I purpose and prosper in the thing for which I sent it." You need to be somebody whose word is their bond. Somebody who speaks it and makes it so. Somebody who takes responsibility not just for their actions, but for their thoughts, for their beliefs, for the things that they say about themselves. I want to end